I'm 82 years old, living in the same small American town I was born in. And believe me when I say I've seen a lot. My name is Charles, though most folks just call me Charlie. A few years ago, I spent time in a nursing home, a decision that still haunts me in unexpected ways. Picture an old man who loves baseball, sipping his favorite cup of coffee and staring out a window, waiting for his grandchildren to visit. That was me, and sometimes those visits never came. In the United States, many seniors like me find themselves in nursing homes for a variety of reasons: health, finances, or simply because family members believe it's the safest option. But too many of us don't realize the hidden truths behind those well-kept corridors. I'm not here to paint an entirely grim picture. I do believe there are nursing homes that genuinely care for their residents, yet there's a deeper layer, a darkness, if you will, that people don't talk about enough. If you're in your golden years, or you know someone who is, these 6 secrets may open your eyes. Don't get me wrong, we seniors are a tough bunch. We've lived through wars, raised families, and learned to handle adversity. But what happens when our independence starts to slip away? Will we be overwhelmed by regret, loneliness, or fear? Or can we find ways to stand up for ourselves and make informed decisions? Today, I'm going to share the shocking truths I've uncovered, truths most people never hear until it's too late. Each secret is tied to a real problem, its grim consequences, and a warning for anyone who might end up in a nursing home. As you follow along, I'd love for you to chime in with your thoughts, so if you're ready to learn these secrets, stick around. There might just be a piece of my story that resonates with you. And remember, if you feel the impact of what I'm saying, go ahead and hit the like button, comment, or subscribe. Now let's dive into the first secret. Before we explore secret 1, I want you to do something for me. If at any point you've witnessed a loved one feeling abandoned or lonely in a nursing facility, or even if you just fear that situation for yourself, comment the number 2 down below. It might seem small, but that simple action can create a sense of community among us seniors, or those who care about us. Now let's turn our attention to what I consider the first dark reality that often goes unnoticed. Secret 1. The hidden isolation. I remember the day I moved into that nursing home. My family insisted it would be temporary, assuring me it was for my own good. Once my children drove away, I felt like my heart sank into my stomach. The friendly staff gave me a warm welcome, but that warmth began to fade when the dust settled, and I realized I was mostly on my own. In a place filled with people, I felt isolated. That seems like a contradiction, but let me tell you, it's frightening how quickly you can become invisible, even when surrounded by so many others. Even though a nursing home is full of residents and staff, real human connection can be strangely lacking. People are busy, nurses are juggling responsibilities, and your fellow residents might be too unwell or too lost in their own world to engage in real conversation. My roommate, for instance, hardly recognized me from one day to the next. He was kind, but he had moments of confusion that made consistent interaction nearly impossible. So there I was, longing for companionship in a building brimming with people who had little time or ability to give it. When isolation sets in, it affects your body, your mind, and especially your spirit. You start feeling lonely, forgotten, like you're just biding your time. The sadness can be crushing. I remember a day my granddaughter called to say she couldn't make it for our weekly visit. I sat by the window for hours anyway, just in case she changed her mind. She never did. That moment stuck with me because it magnified the sense of loss, of having a life that was once vibrant and social suddenly become smaller than my room's 4 walls. Studies show that social isolation can speed up cognitive decline, lead to depression, and even shorten lifespans. In my experience, those weren't just statistics. They were painful realities I witnessed daily. If you or someone you know is about to enter a nursing home, don't assume the setting will solve loneliness. Often it worsens it. Ask yourself, am I ready for the possibility of being alone more often than I'd like? And if you're a family member, consider how vital your visits, calls, and letters truly are. A few minutes spent with a grandparent or parent can make the difference between despair and hope. It's crucial to plan for emotional support, whether that's scheduling regular calls or ensuring staff members are available for meaningful chats. Because isolation isn't just a passing feeling, it's a door that slowly closes on your happiness. In the end, we only regret the chances we didn't take, an old quote goes. For me, it's the chances I didn't take to fight against isolation. I believed things would improve on their own, but I was wrong. Don't make the same mistake. Stay connected, even if it's just a phone call away. If you've ever felt isolated or witnessed a loved one retreat into solitude, share that experience or simply comment the number 2 below to let me know you're listening. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next secret. We need to speak openly about these issues because awareness might just spark change. Secret 2. The understaffing nightmare. I recall hearing a staff member once say, "We're short-handed today." Again. That phrase eventually became so common it lost its meaning, but behind those words was a painful truth. Not enough caregivers were available to meet the needs of all the residents. While most of the nurses and aides I encountered were good-hearted, they were often stretched too thin. Imagine needing help to get out of bed or someone to hand you your medication, and no one arrives for another 30 minutes because the staff is juggling countless other tasks. The guilt, fear, and frustration that come from waiting in discomfort can be overwhelming. Understaffing means care is rushed, corners are sometimes cut, and genuine human interaction gets pushed to the side. Workers are human after all. They get burned out from long hours, low pay, and constant demands from residents who each have unique needs. In my facility, the staff rotation changed every few weeks. One month, I'd have a nurse who knew me by name and understood my medication schedule. The next month, I'd see a flurry of new faces scrambling to figure out who needed what. Consistency was non-existent. When there aren't enough hands on deck, something always falls through the cracks. Maybe your dietary restrictions are overlooked, or maybe someone forgets to help you walk to the activity room. For me, it was personal hygiene that suffered. I needed assistance bathing because of a weak hip, and sometimes I'd have to wait until the late afternoon for my morning bath. These small indignities stack up, eroding confidence and self-worth. Worse yet, undertrained or rushed staff might neglect important health issues. Residents with conditions like diabetes or high blood pressure can find their daily monitoring compromised. The consistent lack of care can lead to medical complications, accidents, and a spiraling sense of helplessness. If you're weighing the option of a nursing home, ask specific questions about staff ratios and turnover rates. Don't just trust the glossy brochures that show smiling caretakers hovering over seniors. Demand to know how many residents each nurse aids. Insist on visiting at odd hours to see if staff are truly prepared. Understaffing can be the root cause of countless other problems, from delayed medications to unintentional neglect. And if you're already in a nursing home, or if your loved one is, remember that squeaky wheels do get the grease. Speak up, document concerns, and report consistent staffing issues to management or state regulators if necessary. Because when it comes to care, good enough. Let's take a quick pause. If you're still with me and you want to keep shining a light on these important truths, give this video a thumbs up. And if you have a personal story about understaffing or delayed care, comment with the number 4. Your words might just help someone else speak up and demand better conditions. After all, we're all in this together. Secret 3. The quiet financial drain. I often joke that growing old ain't for sissies, but the truth is, it's also not for the financially unprepared. When I first signed the paperwork for that nursing home, the costs seemed astronomical. But my children assured me, "Dad, we've got this covered. We just want you safe." Nobody told me how monthly fees can balloon once you factor in medication, extra care, or special dietary needs. A friend down the hall confided that he had to sell his longtime family home to cover his expenses, and he felt that loss acutely. He wasn't just losing a piece of property, he was losing the memories of raising his kids in that house. Nursing home fees vary, but they often eat through savings faster than you realize. In the US, average monthly costs for a private room can be several $1,000s, and that doesn't include extras like specialized therapy or off-site doctor visits. Insurance might cover some of it, but coverage gaps can force families to scramble for solutions. I've seen adult children taking out loans, draining retirement funds, or fighting with siblings over how to split expenses. The financial strain can cause deep family rifts and heartbreaking decisions. Beyond the obvious concern of depleting one's life savings, there's a profound emotional impact. Seniors like me start feeling guilty for becoming a burden. I've watched friends weep in shame because they felt they were draining their family's resources. This stress compounds existing health issues and can lead to depression. We seniors often grew up in an era of self-sufficiency. Admitting we can't handle our finances alone is one of the hardest things. Meanwhile, families face tough conversations about how to afford care without sacrificing everyone's future. Financial woes can drive wedges between siblings and even break family bonds. Do your homework. Look carefully at the contract and ask about hidden fees. Don't be afraid to negotiate or compare multiple facilities. If you're a senior, consider discussing long-term care insurance options well before you need them. And if you're already in the thick of it, speak openly with your family about finances. My biggest regret was not sitting down earlier with my children to create a solid budget plan. By the time we realized how quickly my bank account was diminishing, we'd already made poor financial choices out of urgency. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing, said one American humorist. But there's no time to play if you're worried about losing every penny. Plan ahead and tread carefully. Now, I want to hear from you. If you've ever felt the weight of financial stress when facing nursing home bills, either for yourself or a loved one, comment 6. Also, please share this video if you know someone wrestling with these hefty costs. We need to support each other, especially in times when our choices feel limited. And don't forget to subscribe. This community grows stronger with every voice. Secret: 4. The emotional abuse that no one wants to admit. This next secret is one most folks don't like to talk about. The phrase emotional abuse might sound drastic, but it can be subtle too. Emotional abuse could be staff members belittling a resident, rolling their eyes, or ignoring calls for help. Sometimes it's fellow residents saying hurtful things when the nurses aren't around. I once witnessed a caregiver snap at a sweet lady next door who couldn't remember where she placed her walker. The words, "You're driving me crazy with this," echoed in my own room. That woman was so shaken she spent the rest of the day sobbing quietly, convinced she was the problem. When employees are overworked or undertrained, patience can wear thin. This doesn't make all staff bad people. Many are just overwhelmed. But from a resident's perspective, repeated dismissiveness feels like you're being treated as less than human. This environment can also pit residents against each other. In tight, confined spaces, petty disagreements or confusion can escalate into hostility. I've seen seniors bicker over TV channels, table seats, or just the general frustration of living in a place they never truly wanted to be. Emotional abuse might not leave physical bruises, but it leaves deep emotional scars. You start second-guessing your worth and intelligence. For me, it was hearing a nurse mutter something under her breath when I asked for help to walk to the dining hall. I could tell she was annoyed, and that made me feel guilty for asking for assistance. Assistance that, by the way, I was paying for. Over time, constant negativity can erode a person's will to speak up. Some folks retreat inward, becoming unresponsive, depressed, and even more withdrawn from communal activities. Emotional abuse doesn't stay locked behind nursing home doors. It can follow you well after you leave, feeding anxiety and trust issues. If you suspect emotional abuse, don't brush it off as just a bad day. Document instances, note dates and times, and inform the nursing home administration. If it continues, escalate the matter to your state's long-term care ombudsman or another senior advocacy group. Silence is the worst enemy here. If you're a resident, find an ally. a family member, or a social worker to speak on your behalf if you feel uncomfortable doing it yourself. Nobody deserves to feel belittled or dehumanized during their final chapters of life. And if you're a caregiver reading this, remember the old adage, treat others as you wish to be treated. Seniors are vulnerable. It's our collective responsibility to protect them. This secret was tough to share, but let's keep the conversation going. If you've witnessed or experienced emotional abuse, comment with the number 2 or 4, whichever resonates more with your story. Let's stand against abuse in all its forms. Don't forget to like this video if you want more content that exposes the truths behind nursing homes. Together, we can drive change. Secretive 5, the over-medication trap. During my stay, I noticed residents receiving multiple medications, sometimes 5 or more pills at a time. One day, a well-meaning nurse gave me a pill I didn't recognize. When I asked about it, she replied, "It's for your nerves." But I'd never been prescribed anti-anxiety medication before. That's when I learned many nursing homes rely on medications to keep residents calm and reduce demands on staff. If a person is less anxious or less restless, caregivers have fewer complaints to handle. But this quick fix can become a dangerous cycle. Over-medication can be a silent form of restraint. Instead of addressing underlying issues like pain, boredom, or emotional distress, facilities might rely on drugs to manage difficult behaviors. Don't get me wrong, some people do need medication, but it's alarmingly easy for just one more pill to turn into a cocktail that leaves seniors in a constant daze. It's more convenient for staff if residents are sleepy or docile, but it can rob older adults of clarity, personality, and in some cases, crucial mobility. When the pills stack up, side effects multiply. A medication intended to treat anxiety might cause dizziness or disorientation. Another medication could lower blood pressure, leading to falls. Over time, residents can lose touch with reality, becoming mere shadows of themselves. I've sat beside friends who couldn't follow our conversation because they were too sedated. The heartbreak was seeing them drift in and out, unable to engage in the small joys that make life worth living, like sharing old memories or simply laughing at a joke. Moreover, sudden changes in medication regimens can lead to severe complications, including hospitalizations. For families, it's devastating to watch a once lively and talkative loved one vanish behind a medicinal fog. If you're considering a nursing home or if you have loved ones there, keep tabs on medications. Ask for a detailed list of each prescription and its purpose. Be vigilant about changes. If a doctor prescribes something new, ask why and request alternative treatments if possible, like more frequent check-ins or physical therapy for restlessness. Your body, or your loved one's body, is not a testing ground for convenience. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as the old saying goes, and that includes preventing the overuse of medications. Speak up, ask questions, and ensure that any prescription truly serves a legitimate medical need rather than facility convenience. This topic hits close to home for many of us. If you've felt uneasy about the number of medications you or a loved one have been prescribed, leave a 6 in the comments. Share your experience if you're comfortable. It might be the encouragement someone else needs to advocate more strongly for proper care. And while you're at it, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We still have one more dark secret to discuss, and you won't want to miss it. Secret. 6. The paper-thin dignity. Throughout my life, I've prided myself on being independent. I drove my own car until I was 78, took care of my lawn, and even fixed small things around the house. Moving into a nursing home felt like losing a piece of my identity. Suddenly, simple tasks like dressing or using the restroom required help. That alone was humbling, but what I didn't expect was how easily dignity could be stripped away by small oversights, like not knocking before entering my room, hurrying me through meals, or discussing my health issues within earshot of strangers. Nursing homes often operate on tight schedules. Residents become items on a checklist: bath time at 8 a.m., physical therapy at 10 a.m., lunch at noon. In the rush to meet quotas, personal dignity is overlooked. Staff might forget to close the door when they help a resident change clothes, Or they might talk about private medical matters in a hallway where anyone can listen in. Over time, you start to feel like you've lost control over your own life. I vividly recall an incident where an aide was so busy she barely acknowledged me as she cleaned up my lunch tray, whisking it away along with my half-finished sandwich. That might sound trivial, but to me, it felt like my preferences and needs were less important than her schedule. Living without a sense of dignity chips away at your sense of self. You begin to believe you're just another anonymous patient occupying a bed. Shame and embarrassment can settle in, making you hesitant to speak up or request help, even when you desperately need it. Some residents respond by shutting down emotionally, withdrawing from group activities or family visits because they feel they have no autonomy. The small joys, choosing what to wear, deciding when to sleep or bathe, become luxuries you might not always have in a nursing home environment. This emotional toll can accelerate a resident's decline, both mentally and physically. Before you or a loved one moves in, observe how staff interact with current residents. Do they knock before entering rooms? Do residents look content and respected? Check whether the facility has clear guidelines for maintaining privacy and dignity. Ask direct questions. How do you handle personal care to ensure privacy? If the staff's answers are vague, that's a red flag. Once inside, you must continuously advocate for yourself or your loved one. Never hesitate to remind staff about basic decency, like knocking or waiting for permission to enter. Restoring dignity doesn't require huge changes. It often begins with simple acts of respect. If you believe dignity is a non-negotiable for seniors, and for everyone, really, drop the number 7 in the comments. Your participation isn't just for show. It signals that we as a community refuse to settle for less than what every human being deserves. And if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button. Let's continue exposing these hidden truths and discussing how to protect ourselves and our loved ones. We've journeyed through 6 dark realities of nursing homes: isolation, understaffing, financial strain, emotional abuse, over-medication, and the erosion of dignity. As someone who's lived these experiences, I won't sugarcoat the pain or frustration. Yes, these problems are real and they can have devastating consequences. But I also want you to know that nursing homes aren't universally evil. There are caring, dedicated facilities out there, places where staff treat residents like family, not chores. The challenge is sifting through the marketing fluff to find those genuine havens. The key is awareness. By knowing these potential pitfalls, you're better equipped to ask the tough questions, demand better standards, and make informed choices. If you're already in a nursing home or have a loved one who is, remember that you still have a voice, whether it's speaking directly to administrators or sharing your story online. Don't be afraid to stand up for your rights. As the saying goes, knowledge is power, and now you have the knowledge to make a difference. At 82, I often reflect on my regrets, the times I stayed silent, the moments I felt too ashamed to speak up. I realize now that it's never too late to reclaim our power. Whether you're 40, 60, or 85, you deserve dignity, proper care, and genuine human connection. My deepest hope is that by unveiling these secrets, you'll feel less alone and more prepared to face the possibilities ahead. As much as life challenges us, we always have choices to advocate for ourselves, to demand better conditions, and to seek out those who truly have our best interests at heart. In the words of a classic American quote, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." Let this be your opportunity to take control of your narrative, whether that means researching better options, gathering your family for a serious talk, or speaking up in a facility that's taken your voice for granted. After all, these twilight years can still be filled with moments of joy, laughter, and the warm embrace of loved ones. And I firmly believe that with awareness and effort, we can make them shine a little brighter. Thank you for staying until the end of this video. If you found value in what I've shared, please like, subscribe, and comment with the number 6. If you're committed to protecting the dignity and well-being of seniors everywhere, let's keep this conversation alive, because the more we talk, the less these dark realities remain hidden. May we all find hope. May we always make informed choices. and may no one ever feel lost in their golden years.